Welcome to the Biohacking Superhuman Performance Podcast. My name is Natalie Needham. I'm a nutritionist, a human potential and epigenetic coach, and I created this podcast to bring you the latest ways to take control of your health and longevity. We cover it all, from new technology to ancestral health practices, personalized interventions, and a very special interest of mine, peptides. Enjoy the show. Hey folks, welcome back for another episode. Today's episode is all about biohacking skincare. And my guest is Amitay Eshel. He is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Young Goose, and they make an incredible line of skincare. I've been using these products for a couple of months now, and I'm really impressed with my skin, my face. It's almost like wrinkles are, it's not that they're disappearing, but they're not as defined. Age spots, not as defined. Like things are starting to fade. Full disclosure, this is part of my skincare stack. Someday I'll take you guys through the whole stack, but these products have really been phenomenal. So in this episode, though, we don't just talk about these products. We talk about light therapy in skincare. We talk about the use of NAD for skincare. We talk about lots of different things. And Amitay is a really interesting guy. Like, this is a guy who started off high-level military and somehow ended up in this beauty industry. And so he's combined these two passions of extreme performance, if you will, with beauty, and brought the sensibility to the skincare industry that I think is quite unique. So it's a great episode. It's full of information. If you want to learn more about Young Goose as a brand, you go to younggoose.com. If you want to follow them on Instagram, it's young_goose_skincare. And if you want to get a deal, which they very generously extended to the listeners of this podcast on these products, you can use the link bit.ly/younggoose20 and use discount code superhuman20, and that will get you 20% off your purchase. And that's a code you can use over and over again. So really generous offer. I encourage you to take advantage of it. So thank you for being here. I totally appreciate you guys. If you're trying to connect with me, you can find me on Facebook in the Biohacking Superhuman Performance group. You can find me on Instagram at Natalie Needham, and of course through my website, natneedham.com. So thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys, and enjoy the episode. Hey folks, just a little bit of housekeeping before we launch into the episode. Please remember that all of the information provided in these podcasts is for information purposes only. We are never offering treatments, cures, whatever, for any kind of disease or medical condition. Anything you hear about here is going to be intriguing. There's some research around it, but make sure that you check with your medical provider before you go off and do any of this stuff for yourself. All right. So enjoy the episode. And also, if you're looking to connect with me for any reason, with your comments, questions, whatever it may be, you can reach me through my website, which is natneedham.com, or you can find me on Facebook in the Optimizing Superhuman Performance group, or on MeWe in the Biohacking Superhuman Performance group. And of course, you can also follow me on Instagram, which is at Natalie Needham. Natalie is with an H between the T and the A, the second A. So thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy the episode. Welcome, Amitay Eshel, to the podcast. It is such a pleasure to see you again.
The pleasure is all mine.
Yes. Well, we had the great pleasure of meeting at the Upgrade Labs conference for the first time. And I got to tell you guys, Amitay is one of these people that you meet who has such a breadth of knowledge in so many different areas that the first question we can only start with is, how did you go from where you started to where you are today? Because you're such a wealth of information in so many different areas. And I don't even know that we talked about this so much when we met, because I was so fascinated by your booth and the products in the booth that I just really wanted to know about that. Although we did talk about how you were Green Beret, but, but I need the story. So tell us about you and your story.
So I think my story is not very special as far as my the feelings I've had or the way I made decisions, throughout my life, or my aspirations. But I do think that I've been very lucky in what interested me along the way, and the choices I've made, which are obviously, aren't they, you don't know what's going to happen in your future, but I feel very lucky about the choices I made and where it led me. So I'm originally Israeli. I grew up in what I call the West Virginia of Israel, which are the Galilee Mountains. I normally like to say it because people immediately, they have a flashback to some rural, mountainous, green area, and that's where I grew up. I grew up as the crow flies, about less than a mile from the Lebanese border. Very, very tense border growing up. And since I was a teenager, I wanted to be in the Israeli Special Forces. That in Israel, when you grow up, that's kind of putting you in the upper echelon of status or whatever that is, and that's the thought of a 14, 15-year-old, right? You want to have high status.
So big.
And so preparing my body for it, you basically you start getting sifted and recruited to different special forces entities since the age of 16 or especially 17.
Mm-hmm.
So I started preparing for that since I was 14, 15. And that definitely takes a toll on the body. I put myself through the ringer since I'm a teenager, and got accepted into something equivalent to the Green Berets here. It's a unit called EGOZ, which is the counter guerrilla warfare units. And basically, we practiced guerrilla warfare ourselves. And I ended up being in charge of the reconnaissance aspect in our basically, I was a reconnaissance fighter for a while in that unit, and then I ended up being the head of the reconnaissance division in our school, the guerrilla school. And along the way, I've accumulated a lot of injuries, and I wasn't very nice to my body. So when I finished my military service in my early 20s, by the time I was 23, I had the injuries accumulated like a 50-year-old.
I'll bet.
And being somewhat of a crazy guy, I'm obsessed with fighting, with jiu-jitsu, with exercise, lifting. That took a lot out of my body, and since I wanted to continue to do it for as long as I can, I started looking into modalities to improve or optimize my health and kind of mitigate some of the injuries and micro disabilities that I accumulated. And that kind of took me personally on a path to what now we know as biohacking. Back then, 15 years ago or almost 20 years ago, that didn't exist as a word as far as I know. But in my professional career, I got recruited into what is now a very reputable hair care brand, because we really get recruited out of the military to pretty high positions of leadership. And I didn't want to do what everyone else does, which is going to the tech industry.
Yeah.
I wanted, I'm a little bit, I think like most of us in our community, I'm a contrarian. So I wanted to do something else a little bit. So I was I was the retail director of a hair care company for a short time until it got sold out, got some money off of that, and started a startup in the light therapy field.
Yes.
Which now is integrated into one of the bigger companies in that field. And we sold that company as well. And since then, I've had different endeavors in the biohacking space, which I really consider my community and my extended family. And from personal talks between you and I, Natalie, I always am very thankful and very appreciative to anyone who is contributing to our community. and contributing to growing that community. And that is part of, I feel like why we're talking here today, because, giving back to that community, and as far as education or updates on recent innovations in that field, I feel is part of the service that I specifically, and I know you do too, we need to give back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you have a great podcast as well where you do that as well, right? It's called Biohacking Beauty, which is a great angle. You have some great episodes in there. I was poking around earlier.
Yeah, and the idea of the Biohacking Beauty, now we have a skincare brand. Anyone who knows about NAD, we kind of have innovated in the field of NAD for the skin. But the idea is not necessarily to talk about skincare. Having a skincare brand, you learn that even though you consider yourself a biohacking skincare brand, 90% of your clients are not biohackers. They're just people who are interested in looking younger and buy your products. For those people, I feel a sense of debt to them to introduce them into the biohacking field, and to also educate them that doesn't matter what product they're going to use, mine or anyone else's, they are not going to look younger if their other aspects of their health are not managed well. If they're not optimizing their gut, there is no way they can treat, for example, acne long-term. And we know it since we're teenagers, right? We should eat this, we shouldn't eat this. That's kind of self-explanatory. But as we grow older in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, our relationship with inflammation, with environmental stressors, heavy metals, oxidative stress, blue light from our screens, obviously sleep and what we call sleep hygiene, the quality of our sleep, physical activity, all of those things, they play a much bigger role than, applying a cream once or twice a day on our face. So biohacking beauty actually refers to everything else aside from our products.
Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think that, we, as a society, we're always looking for the quick fix. We're always looking for, what do I do for this one thing? And this one thing doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of a much bigger thing. And I've often said, because my podcast also is very, very focused on longevity and optimizing performance and health and the whole 9 yards. But I'm like, I want to live a really long time. I want to be able to explore things. I want to be vital. I want to have all those things. And I'd prefer not to look like a raisin. But that's, to your point, it's from the inside out, right? And it has to do with all of the things that we do. And we see it, I'll tell you a funny story. Well, not a funny story. It's a terrible story, but I have a neighbor who I had not seen since last summer or the beginning. I think the last time I saw him was in May. And I'm walking up the street not too long ago, and we have a rehab hospital not far from our house. And very often the patients from the rehab hospital walk around the street because we're in a very quiet neighborhood. So they're trying to get outside, they're trying to get some air, they're trying to get moving. And I see this little old man, hunched over with a walker and a big kid beside him, big younger man beside him. And I'm thinking he's a guy from the rehab. And let me back up by saying that my neighbor is I think he's in his mid 40s, and he's 2 and a big strapping, strong guy. And the little old man looks up and smiles and says hello to me. And I realized that the little old man is my neighbor.
Wow.
5 months after I last saw him, when he was a big, strong man. And I mean, when you meet when you run into someone you haven't seen, you're like, oh, hi, how are you? You look great. And I was like, all I could say was, what happened? Like, what?
Wow.
Happened? And he suffered pancreatitis and was in the hospital for 3 months. And guys, if you if you cannot imagine how this man aged in the few months since I last saw him from this internal condition, his skin, his hair, his teeth, like every aspect of his physiology, he'd lost, I think, probably 40 pounds, all of it muscle.
Wow.
It was really powerful. I don't know how much of that he'll be able to recuperate. He obviously was very, very sick and is still fighting to get his health back. But it was a very incredible example to me. Like, we don't imagine that the body can age that much in that little time when things really go sideways. And that was quite something. So when we talk about, obviously he has bigger problems about how he looks, but when we talk about beauty comes from within in that physiological way, never mind your personality and not being a horrible person. But when we talk about beauty coming from within, we can't stress it enough that all of the things that you do are going to have a massive impact, regardless of what fabulous products you're using.
Yeah. And I think it's, and what I'm connecting with the most in what you said is that we cannot stress it enough, because this should be a type of mantra. Us as human beings, we didn't evolve, and we're not very good in understanding repercussions of accumulation of marginal gains or marginal decline.
Yeah,
we're very good at understanding quick fixes and silver bullets and 180 turnarounds, and that's how normally advertisement gets us.
Let's do this.
But yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. But we're not very good in understanding how one cheeseburger a day is going to, just think of Morgan Spurlock and his Super Size Me movie, how you can basically, run your health down in I think 30 days. I don't remember.
Yeah, it wasn't very long, for sure.
Not very long. But so the example I love giving often is the example, is a positive example, but the example of the British cycling team, which was not very good or did not win anything until a coach came to them and tweaked every aspect that he could, just by a little bit. So very, very interesting things like bringing pillows that supported their head well anywhere they went.
Yeah.
And painting the trailer that they had where they fixed the bikes, painting it white so they can see every little piece on the floor, or having, tweaking different aspects by a few percentages. And since then, that's one of the leading bicycling teams in the world.
No kidding.
And that's called aggregation of marginal gains.
Nice.
And that is my favorite example about biohacking. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to elevate our health through tweaking as many aspects as we can in our lives, and that accumulation is what sets us apart from maybe the rest of aging society, if you would.
Yeah, no, I love it, and it's very true. So let's dig into this a little bit. So we're not going to talk too much about all those other little things, because at the end of the day, although your expertise is vast, we're going to focus on the main areas. And before we get into actual skincare, one of your other areas of expertise that I think is really, for lack of a better word, hot right now is light therapy, right?
Yeah.
And you and I had a couple of really interesting conversations about this, both in Miami and then in Orlando. And you have quite a broad body of knowledge in this area. So maybe we can talk, because there's, people are always wondering, and one of the things we're seeing a lot of right now if you're on Instagram or on Facebook and following a number of different biohackers, they're wearing these masks that have red light in them. So I'd love your take on that, because maybe you can talk a little bit about your interest in red light, because which makes a lot of sense, because we know that different wavelengths can affect different layers of healing in the body, not just the skin. But maybe we can talk about that a little bit, because I know you've talked to me about a couple of little devices that I'm like, okay, when can I get one of those? And they're not things you sell, so I still
no.
So anyway.
It's important to emphasize that currently I don't have any financial interest in any light therapy product, but that is one of the areas that have made me a more optimized individual, and also has contributed to my financial success. So I'm very appreciative of that field. And a lot of the times when we hear about something new to us, like light therapy, we tend to think that it's new to the world. So I think the most important thing to start with is to understand that light therapy, or the effects of specific wavelengths on our body, is something that has been around for centuries. But especially if we talk about the maybe our modern era and how it started relating to red light specifically, we should know that it started in the 60s, and it's a very interesting story. So when blue light or blue lasers were researched, just by happenstance, you normally, when you do a research, you have a control group. Control group means a group of subjects that are not undergoing whatever therapeutic model you're aiming to research, and you can refer to them and kind of understand how someone would go along without the therapy you're trying to use. And when they were using blue lasers, the control group, the scientists chose to shine. It was on mice, by the way, but the control group was basically mice who were irradiated with red lasers.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But that was a control group. They didn't know red lasers would do anything. So,
and what did they hope the blue lasers were going to do? What was the driver behind? Because there's benefits to all different. There's the green, the blue, the red. We only talk about the red. We tend to talk about blue as being bad because it's what comes at us from our computers, and we talk about it aging the skin and doing all these different things. But in this case, they must have been researching the blue for some kind of benefit.
Yes, I think it was dermacidal benefits, which blue, of course, we know, or we should know that it's very beneficial for acne, and for our eyes as well. I mean, we do need blue light. Our eyes need blue light in order to start a few hormonal processes. So our body refers to blue light as far as cues that it needs from the environment. And a good example would be the fact that people in areas that they get less sun throughout the year develop seasonal affective disorder, which is aptly dubbed SAD.
Yes.
And with a kind of a natural or blue tinted light being exposed to blue light, we can actually mitigate that ailment. But in that case, they were looking at the germicidal effects of blue light. So these mice, just to finish the story, their fur was shaven for that experiment, and the mice that got exposed to the red light, their fur grew twice as fast, and that was an anecdote from that experiment. But we really have started seeing red light being used in the late 80s and 90s for mouth ulcers that weren't healing after chemo or mainly radiation, which are called, which are very, 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 very troubling. Is when you're going through that, they bother you eating, etc.
Oh yeah, no, it contributes to the cachexia. It contributes to all the issues around. Recovering. And so red light has been used for that, or red laser has been used for that aspect of medicine for a very long time.
And we've started seeing publications and people using it for less, straight up medical applications in the early 2000s. And that's just kind of to set someone at ease if they're going to go down that rabbit hole of light therapy. They should know it didn't start yesterday, and there is substantiated science to back it up well over 1,000 articles that have been published on light therapy or low-level laser therapy, red light therapy. It has a lot, photobiomodulation, it has a lot of names.
Yeah.
And in order to understand what the wavelengths of red and near-infrared light specifically, what they do to our body, we need to understand one thing. First of all, just to let you know, I'm not talking about infrared saunas.
No.
That's very important, because a lot of the times people conflate infrared saunas with light therapy.
Yeah, well, they say, if I have an infrared sauna, do I need a red light therapy device? It's like, yes, they're different.
Yeah, they're not only different. The rule is, if something gets turned into thermal energy, it's not going to get utilized for chemical energy in our cells. And so that's just an anecdote. So we need to understand a word called hormesis. Hormesis is a word that's growing in usage and popularity in our community and in the scientific community in general. And I love Dave Asprey's little description, which is literally, this is the quintessential, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Absolutely.
It's not really the case with hormesis. We can not kill someone, but still harm them. But the idea is that moderate amount of stress can signal our body can kind of super compensate. Our body can grow stronger from it. You can think of a gym, right? We're stressing our muscles and our muscles grow.
Yeah.
Sauna, intermittent fasting, turmeric is hormetic, for example.
Exactly. And upregulates glutathione as a hormetic response to the stress which a lot of people miss, right? They all think turmeric, it's so good for you. And it is, but it isn't. And it's only good in the right amounts at the right time for the right reasons.
And even metformin, a diabetic drug, and not only that drug, there are a few such as acarbol. They're all hormetic. So they all apply that stress on different processes in the body. Even broccoli sprouts do it.
Yes. Yes.
So hormesis is that aspect, and light therapy is hormetic. So a lot of times I like to describe the reason that our body can even use it. That if you look at the sun when it's way up high in the sky, don't look at the sun. Okay, the sky would be blue.
Yeah.
And when the sun is close to the horizon, the sky has a red tint, and the reason is because the light has more atmosphere, which means water. It travels through, and water absorbs wavelengths of light, and what we're left with is red, which is not absorbed well by water. And through the ages, our body evolved to utilize that aspect of red light, or near infrared, which is basically red light that we cannot see.
Yeah.
Okay, it's in the infrared spectrum, but we can look at it as a type of red light. And that light also isn't getting absorbed by our body's water or other photoreceptors we have in the body, such as hemoglobin or melanin, or different ones. What does absorb it is our mitochondria, a specific enzyme in the mitochondria. And everyone who has had some biology in high school can remember the saying, mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell.
Absolutely.
So we can really think of the mitochondria as such. It's the engine of our car, which is the cell. So if we want to go somewhere, we need to have a functioning engine, and the better functioning engine is going to get us there safer, faster, more efficiently, etc. So red and near infrared light apply that hormetic stress on our mitochondria, on the oxygen utilizing part of the mitochondria. And through that, we basically, our mitochondria can overreact. So you can think of the gym like a gym for your mitochondria.
Yep.
So what it does, the mitochondria releases all the kind of accumulated waste that it accumulated.
Yeah.
And one important waste material is nitric oxide. So when we think of why it's healthy to drink beet juice or breathe through your nose, or feel it, or why people take like pre-workouts, some of them they have nitric oxide. They have the ability to raise nitric oxide. So nitric oxide basically dilates our blood vessels, and we can get more oxygenated blood wherever we want it, wherever we need it. So that's one aspect. The other aspect of light therapy is the fact that we increase ATP, which is literally cellular fuel. And the third one is that we eliminate oxidative stress. So the combination of those three things, I think, is kind of self-explanatory how the combination of those three things would create a healthier tissue. And that's really what we're talking about. Obviously, our skin receives it first.
Yeah.
So we can talk about strategies to maybe have it receive less of it or more of it, but it's important to know that it is very beneficial for your skin. But I can give an example that the San Francisco 49ers, they have a room of red light therapy that helps them recover. And any major sports team by this point are using light therapy at some capacity for recovery, their muscles. But really, we can look at it for anything from benefits to our blood vessels, collagen production, muscle recovery, reduction of inflammation, and even nerve, cartilage, and bone. They all can benefit from light therapy. So that's just like maybe a short lesson.
But let's talk about these masks that everybody's wearing right now. Right?
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about, because there's, in the biohacking community, and some of the people listening to this podcast have been following biohacking for a while. Some are a little bit newer. Some find the biohacking word very scary. Some think it's the best thing ever. But in the biohacking community, it's been a lot about these red light panels. And people have been talking about, and I think what's becoming interesting is that people are, I want to live a long time, and I want to look good at the same time, right? And I think it's also, as the biohacking community is growing up and starting to age, they're starting to get to the point where they're like, and I'd be at the front of the pack here. I'm like, okay, this is great. I want to live a really long time. I want to be kicking ass. And also I'd like to look okay at the same time. So red light has really come to the forefront as a tool that we can use because it upregulates the production of collagen. Like, in addition to all of the other things that you were just talking about, there are aesthetic benefits to it as well. Yeah. So those masks, do you want to talk to me a little bit about those masks? I know you're going to start shaking your head.
No problem. But in general, we really, it doesn't matter if we have $1 in our bank account or $100 million in our bank account. We don't want to be a sucker, right? We don't want to be a fool and invest in the wrong thing. So when we look at what we want to look when we consider a light therapy device, tool, whatever that may be, mask, we really want to look at the amount of stimulation we're getting for what price, and also what other benefits we can get from it, how versatile a said device is, right?
Yeah.
And those masks, let's just start with the fact that they're not versatile. That's maybe
it's a one-trick wonder. Yeah.
Exactly. So today you want your skin to look better, and tomorrow you hurt your knee running, or you develop plantar fasciitis, and we would obviously want one tool, if we could, that would treat all of those and not having to have a closet full of essentially the same technology applied to different areas. So that's the first thing I'm going to say about those masks. The second thing is, as a general rule, they're not strong enough. Okay.
Yeah.
As a general rule, I'm gonna give a lot of examples that are about the gym because it's the easiest. So as a general rule, when we look at stimulation, we have a lower threshold and we have a higher threshold. So if I pick up my phone and I'm going to try to, lift it over my head, me becoming a bodybuilder is going to be very difficult, right? But if I try to lift, I don't know, I'm in a hotel room, so that
the bookshelf
couch behind me, or whatever it is, I'm going to injure myself, and that's going to be counterproductive as well. So we're working within these parameters, and within light therapy, we want to look more at accumulation rather than like trying to reach the higher threshold.
Right, too fast.
Yeah. So these masks can be okay if they are strong enough, but I'm telling you from a manufacturer's point of view, they are all made in China by specific manufacturers, and then they slap a
logo,
brand name on them.
Yeah,
and none of them are strong enough, not even remotely. Okay, so they may be able to give benefits over time, but you're not going to get very profound benefits. And they're just, on average, they cost a few hundreds of dollars. And there are better devices that are going to give you those effects for the same amount of money, and that you can use in different places.
And so, amazing. So in terms of, before we move on to what those might be, in terms of the benefits that you can get from red light. So we were talking about this earlier, and, we're going to talk about the different aspects of aging that affects, and everybody's, because it's what we see, everybody's obsessed with the skin, right? So the skin is the first thing that we observe. But I will tell you that as over the last couple of years, particularly in the last year, what's really come to my attention is that the infrastructure under the skin is probably where we want to be spending a bit more time and energy addressing, because, Mother Nature, gravity will have its way with us. Things will start to slide. Things move from one place to another. Bone structure starts to diminish as well. Can red light, not the masks necessarily, but the right red light, can that help to address what's happening underneath as well as not just on top? Because you talked about earlier, it stimulated hair growth for the mice, which is amazing. We have a lot of people who, for many reasons, lose their hair as they age or after an illness. There's a particular illness around at this time that seems to have that effect on certain people.
Yes.
But can it get below?
Yes. So the answer is yes, and we can even biohack that, and I'll talk about it in a second. But firstly, our face, even though we see our skin, right? So there is a reason beauty maintenance is called skincare.
Yeah.
But our skin is being just like a house. The house walls are not necessarily the paint on the house or the outer layer only. You need to have infrastructure, as you said. Our face and our youthful appearance also relies on a few things. Our fat face, and that fat starts to deplete over time, specifically in air or the structure of that fat. So, for example, the structure here starts to deplete over time, and then it doesn't support the skin in the same way. Our muscle mass starts to diminish, and obviously there are processes in the skin that also influence that, such as glycation, decreased collagen production and repair, epigenetical mistakes or corruption of epigenetic material, etc.
Yeah.
So red light can actually influence many different aspects of youthful appearance. And one of the things I would like to emphasize, that maybe you and I will, when we're talking about how we look, we are talking about the skin of our face, but these processes and effects are happening in the rest of our body as well.
Yes.
Maybe now in Canada it's probably getting cold no one's going to wear a bikini right now, but
no, not till next week.
So us living in Miami year round, you also care about how the skin on your body, how it's draped over your body, if you would. So light therapy can affect different aspects, even though we like to say that most of the absorption is 3 millimeters in the tissue. That's going to be kind of where our subcutaneous fat or our hypodermis, which is the innermost layer of the skin, that's where they reside. That's kind of where it's going to reach mostly. But there are what we call cascade of metabolic events that
goes
are deeper. Yeah, and also some of the light does reach our deeper tissue, as we stated before. So that's why it's important to have maybe a higher power than just the minimum threshold. We do want to reach those inner layers. And there was a study published recently and also written about in prominent newspapers of how light therapy can help with dementia.
Yes.
And there is even a company there are a couple of companies. One of them is BioLight. Another one is a friend of mine, which is a company that is now being kind of funded through Indiegogo, which is a crowdfunding website, which is called Cera with a C. And they work on
CERO?
CERA.
Oh, Cera, CERA.
Yes.
And what do they make?
They make a photobiomodulation for the brain. So actually for the brain and for the gut.
Yeah. Oh, I heard about this. Yes.
And so the best way to refer to light therapy is PBM, or photobiomodulation, which photo means light, bio means our biology, modulation obviously means the modulation of it.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to describe what light therapy is. But we'll go back and forth as far as referring to it as such. So you could even reach the brain with wavelengths who are a little bit longer, who are in the near infrared spectrum, such as 810 or 850. And that is why now that we're going to go into, with your permission, into devices that I do like, they can be versatile. So, for example, I meditate with a light therapy panel very close to my head. And through my BioStrap, I can see improvement in my
in your meditation metrics.
In my meditation metrics. So I love simple panels. Okay, everything that is not a simple panel is basically a simple panel broken down into a more pliable / easier to use application. But that normally means that it would be more expensive for the same amount of photons we're going to get eventually into our skin. So if we're talking about return on investment, light panels such as we can name names of companies if you would like, but light panels, we have Juve is probably the most popular one. Dave Asprey started his own company recently. There is a company that I like just because of their warranty and their the time that they have been in business, which is Platinum LEDs. They're probably the
I've heard of them.
So that's normally when people ask me off the top of my head what they should get. Normally I refer them to Platinum LEDs, and even ones that are really on the upper end of the power output that people should be using, which is Chroma. That's probably for the real explorers out there. It's a device that can burn you if you're not you're not careful.
So we have to be paying attention to those.
You have to be, and you have to know that I'm a pretty extreme person, so I need to pace myself sometimes. But you have to know it about yourself if you are one like that, and take it into account. But basically what we're talking about is the amount of photons our body gets, and that would be it. So if you're taking a mask or you're buying a mask or a panel, whatever that may be, what we want to do eventually is accumulate a stimulation that is worth 50 to 100 joules in general. Okay.
In your total treatment time.
In your total treatment time, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as how to use something like that, it's pretty easy.
Oh yeah.
You just stand in front of it, and the further you are away from it, the less penetration you're going to have.
Yeah. Well, that is one of the criticisms I think that a lot of the panels get, is that so much of that power is dissipated into the room, right? And so, I mean, I myself have a Juve panel and I've used it for a number of years. And at the end of last year, one of the first podcasts that I recorded was with a company that has introduced a new type of device in the photobiomodulation world that I would say is certainly for various injuries and for applying to my gut and different parts of my body, I have found to be way more effective. I've gotten way more bang for my buck from this thing, and nothing against Juve. Like, in a perfect world, you have both, because the nice thing about a panel is you can get full body exposure. Whereas with this little guy, which is, not that I want to advertise it, but this is the Flex Beam. I can actually put it on, and it has different modalities. So you can adjust how deeply by the length, the wavelength that it's delivering, and the way that it's delivering it, it's going to go deeper into the system. So
I agree.
Yeah, I think that, at the end of the day, picking your red light device is really about, to your point, and you started with this, like the mask maybe is a little bit too limiting, and you just don't need that. Like, you can get it done with a panel, or even with this Flex Beam, just by holding it in front of your face, right here. And 100%. You'll get the benefits. It'll be way more powerful. You won't have to spend as much time. And then you can do lots of other things with it as well.
Yes. First of all, you're 100% correct. And what I like, rule of thumb, as far as when we do look at light therapies and their different structure or the devices that use them, if you could hold the Flex Beam again to the camera, we'll see that it has like huge vents in the back of it.
Yeah.
And that's something important, vents and fans, obviously, that cool the device. And that's kind of something important to remember, that if it would be strong enough, this is a device that would need a type of a cooling system that is going to be expressed by open air vents and fans running while the device is running. Okay. Yeah. So if we see a panel, a mask, anything that doesn't have a cooling system, it's probably either not strong enough or barely strong enough. Okay. So that's just as a rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the Flex Beam is an amazing device, and obviously it's very, very, very easy to use. You could just wrap it around the body part,
and it's portable. Yes. You can take it with you.
Portable, which a panel wouldn't be very portable.
Not so much. No.
But just because I believe the panel has a panel has so many different applications, from exposing specific body parts to exposing our whole body to it and getting kind of a holistic benefit. Either or would be great.
Yeah.
Now, something important to emphasize, and to your point, in light therapy, the larger area we expose ourselves to, the lower the stimulation we get per centimeter squared, per body part. It's not only about the strength, it's also about how our body reacts to this stimulation.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not going to bore you with the science of it because it's quite boring. But basically, just try to remember it should be like a sharpened knife. Okay.
Exactly.
If we want a concentrated effect on a specific area, we want to have it very concentrated. But if we just want holistic benefits, we can expose our whole body to it.
Yeah.
So that's about that. Maybe I would say the last thing about light therapy that I really, really, really like is its effect on hair growth, which I know a lot of people care about. So if you remember, I did mention the fact that it dilates blood vessels. which is one of the best things about it, actually. And what happens, especially to men, but not necessarily only, is that the accumulation of DHT, which is a derivative of testosterone, which coats our hair follicle and deprives it from blood. And that's how those hair follicle, kind of
they start to die.
They get starved out.
Yeah.
The blood doesn't reach them. They become more fragile and they die eventually. So what light therapy does, by dilating those blood vessels, we can have more blood reach the hair follicle. And especially if we can combine it with a DHT blocker, and there are a lot of them on the market. So anything from, there are different finasteride, for example. But even if you want to go the more holistic route, you can even, to some extent, do it with GHKCU and a microneedling. Microneedling roller. Even though my dermatologist friends don't like when I recommend an at-home microneedling roller.
Yeah.
You could do it.
Well, there's a company that I spoke to recently, and they have a hair restoration serum. And what they do is they actually have a stamp. And I wonder if the stamp might be a little less injurious, because the problem with the roller and the home ones is I think what a lot of people don't like about them is they can tear the skin a little bit, whereas the stamp might be a little bit more direct. Also, if you have hair, it's not going to wrap your hair around the roller and extract the hair as you're trying to rejuvenate the hair follicles that are damaged.
What I would say about those stamps is that they're made in China. They're shipped in very large quantities. They're screwed on a vial, basically, and when you stamp your hair, there are ones for the face as well, for example. You're getting those
like a delivery of
exactly. Very, very, very important that when you get one, you submerge it in alcohol and you sanitize it. That's kind of my 2 cents about that. And we have played with that in our skincare company as a modal delivery for a peptide called that's called BPC 157.
Yes.
To the skin. We're going to get it. We're going to come out with it eventually. We just have so many things in our pipeline that it's hard to get everything out when we want it.
Hey, folks, we interrupt this podcast to bring you and to thank our newest sponsor, which is Bioptimizers. And we're in real luck because this month, Bioptimizers is launching their Black Friday deal right now during the first week of the month of November. And not only are they going to be giving you a huge discount all month long, they are also going to be giving away over $200 worth in free gifts. This is their biggest sale of the entire year. So this is the perfect time to stock up on some of their best-selling magnesium breakthrough. This is the only organic full-spectrum magnesium supplement that includes 7 unique forms of magnesium for stress relief, better sleep, all in one bottle. The truth is that most magnesium supplements fail simply because they're synthetic and they're not full spectrum. And you see, when you get all 7 critical forms of magnesium, pretty much every function in your body gets an upgrade, from your brain to your sleep, pain, inflammation, even less stress. So it's not just about the huge discount during the entire month of November. As I mentioned earlier, Bioptimizers is also offering all sorts of awesome free gifts and products worth over $200 with select purchases, as long as you use my unique code, which I'm going to get to. This is literally the best time to get the lowest prices, to stock up, and to take advantage of all the free extras you're going to get. You can only get this exclusive deal through my link, special for you listeners. You will not find this on Amazon or even the Bioptimizers website. All you have to do is go to www.magnesiumbreakthrough.com/Bionat and use code Bionat to get your discount and free gifts today. One last thing before I go. You should know that all Bioptimizer supplements are really the best in class. But if for some reason you feel differently, you can get a full refund up to a full year after your purchase. No questions asked. So once again, the link to go to right now for this exclusive deal is www.magnesiumbreakthrough.com/BioNat. And make sure that you also use promo code BioNat, BIONAT. So do it while supplies last and don't miss the November 30th deadline. Ready, set, go. But first, let's get back to our episode. Let's move into skincare now, because we've been talking about red light and light for a long time, and it's all been very educational and informative.
Can I just say one more thing?
One last thing, yes.
One last thing. We did speak about, exposing a large area, getting less benefits, smaller area, getting more benefits.
Yeah.
And part of that mechanism is because we deal with free radicals.
Yes.
When we deal with or free radical release when we deal with light therapy. And by supplementing on free radical scavengers, such as green tea, EGCG, which is a free radical scavenger in green tea, we can improve the results of light therapy.
Yes.
Okay. So that's kind of a
great
something to summarize it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I also like molecular hydrogen for that because it will scavenge and it's selective. It doesn't get rid of all the oxidation. It's selective, and you want some, but not too much. So sometimes maybe not use any kind of ozone releasing devices / creams, whatever that may be, when you're using light therapy, or maybe trying to even stop. Yeah, even trying to separate them by 3 to 5 days. Oh, interesting.
Some research shows.
Okay, cool.
Just saying. Okay, so you wanted to talk a little bit about skincare. Well,
I want to talk about skincare because ultimately that is currently your project. That is the brand that you, and with a person like you who has gone into so many different directions, it's always interesting to see where do you end up putting your focus, right?
Yes.
And you're going to put your focus really where you feel you're going to be able to deliver the most benefit for your audience or your clientele. And, one of the many things that I love about your skincare, number one, is you use peptides, and you even talk about BPC 157 as a future, which I'm very interested about, because BPC 157, we know it for wound healing, for musculoskeletal repair, for gut healing, for brain recovery, for all those things. But as a wound healer, which is where you're looking at these regenerative properties for the skin, it doesn't get nearly as much attention. So I will be really interested to learn about that when you come out with it. But in the meantime, you have this incredible line of skincare, which I've been using now for, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks, not quite since when we met, but not long after. And again, look, you know what, guys, like I'm not 20 years old, like I'm 57. I'm going to be 58 soon. I have a hard time saying it sometimes. And so am I going to see my skin completely transform in 3 weeks? No. You know what? 58 years of life, being a lifeguard, doing all the things that I've done is not going to come undone. But certainly in terms of what I've seen, I really like the product. But now but you have a very unique approach to what you're helping the skin with. And from the tripeptide, the copper peptide, GHKCU, right through to using NAD. And so talking about how NAD becomes bioavailable to skin cells, how deep does it go? Are you addressing the salvage pathway of NAD? Like all of those different aspects. Let's talk.
Okay, fantastic. So first of all, something I believe that one of the original biohacks is skincare. Any skincare is biohacking. The fact that we call ourselves, so my brand is called Young Goose, and we call ourselves the world's first biohacking skincare. That's a lie. Every skincare is biohacking.
Okay.
Probably when we lived in caves, we smeared mud for sure, but also fat on our face. That's biohacking. We are using the environment or parts of the environment to affect our biology and the expression of our biology. So we're just saying it because we're the first one addressing it as biohacking.
Yeah.
So when we started, we've been formulating for other companies for a very long time under the brand name Hormesis.
Okay.
just like we spoke about. So we literally own the trademark for hormesis in skincare,
Good
in
one.
cosmetics.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when we wanted to make a brand which we would build upon, which people would recognize, the problem was that a week before we registered it for other areas, someone registered it for supplements.
No.
Yes. So we decided to call an audible and to look for a different name, because we don't know how the other company is going to be, and we don't want to be associated with another company.
Yeah,
right?
and it's confusing anyway. But so why Young Goose? Why Goose?
So yeah,
Young I get, but why a goose of all things?
it's twofold. So I used to be called Goose back in the day, but it's not for that specifically. My partner, who is a very wealthy individual and can afford the good things in life, has a lot of things with the word goose in them, or his family. So they wear golden goose shoes, and they drink gray goose, and they have a kind of the goose jacket. And he said, goose sounds good. It's popular. And I was like, you know what? It connects with me as an individual. Let's call it Young Goose.
All
so
right.
we called it Young Goose. And we love to be unique, and the name is unique.
It sure is. Well, so, it's definitely memorable. That's for sure.
And what normally when you look at skincare, and if I can describe the meta of skincare, the kind of the rules in retail, normally you do not want to educate the customer. You want to go for what is hot right now in the market, and give the customer what they already are looking for. And we decided to break the rules, as we like doing, and to do the exact opposite, to look at what is the most effective modality that is available right now in the world, and create products that we know would be the most efficacious. And that is the route we went to. So the first development we had was for NAD. So NAD, just in 2 words or in a sentence, NAD is to the mitochondria what the mitochondria is to us, or to our body, or to our cells. Okay, so that powers the mitochondria. It declines with age, and that decline literally is one of the biggest culprits in aging, because we don't have the fuel we need. And really, if you want to look at what aging is, our skin specifically, but other aspects of aging as well, it's the accumulation of unrepaired damage. So when our body cannot repair itself, and these damages accumulate. That's what we feel is aging, from a wrinkle to our knee hurting, etc. How we digest food, etc.
Yeah, it's universal currency of aging.
Correct. So
perfect.
Yeah. So normally, so just to give you an idea, from the publicly traded company that makes NAD supplements, which is True Niagen, or Chromadex is the company who owns it, we know that they sell for about $250 million a year. Just to give you an idea how big that industry is. And we're not even talking about other companies who don't. Their numbers are not published, and IVs of people doing NAD, etc. The problem with NAD, as far as supplementation and even an IV, is that your skin doesn't enjoy much of it. Most of it gets to our liver, and the rest gets a little bit into our muscles, our brain. Our skin is not
well. It's not a high priority to the body.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. To the body's going to prioritize the organs it needs to survive and to function.
Correct.
As far as your body's concerned, skin, whatever.
Yeah. Another thing is that this process is not a clean process. Our body has no idea what NAD is when we give it to it. Our body is used to making NAD from building blocks of NAD, which are called precursors. Okay, so our body knows what to do with building blocks of NAD, but not with NAD as a whole. So you'll see, maybe like just a PSA, okay? You'll see 2 types of ways to elevate NAD right now in the world that are popular. One is straight up NAD. The other one are NAD precursors. And the main ones are NR and NMN, nicotinamide riboside and nicotinamide mononucleotide. There are financial interests in both sides. So you'll see, publications saying this is better. from a skeptic's point of view, they're both very, very similar. Okay, so the body knows what to do with these two, but less with straight up NAD. And I'm gonna just maybe remark that it's different in the brain. So when we talk about the brain, our brain can use NAD wholly as a whole. But again, as we said, doesn't matter what we give precursors, straight up NAD, our skin's not going to enjoy it very much. So what we did was we developed together with a professor in the Weizmann Institute, which is similar to, it's a technological institute that's very, 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 very successful. A lot of Nobel laureates came out of there. Yeah. It's in Israel. I like to describe it as the Israeli MIT.
So a lot of good research comes out of there. A lot of research on the gut, on the microbiome. They've published a lot of really interesting stuff over the last few years.
Hyperbaric chamber.
Hyperbaric.
Yes. So it definitely contributed to our community and to the world of health, and is continuing to do that. It's an amazing place. So we basically made a topically available version of those precursors. There are other products in the market that, again, because NAD is starting to become popular, are using NAD in their formulation. The problem is, as we said, especially in our skin doesn't have connexins. It doesn't have the highways to usher NAD into the cell where it needs it. It does have, however, highways for those precursors. So what we do is we basically break down NAD to these precursors. We wrap them in vehicles for that highway. We lipolyze them, and we nanosize them and lipolyze them. So they're small enough to get into our skin through our pores, and then they are stable enough to drive on that highway and get into the cell, where then in our cell they are being built into NAD. And
so when you lyophilize them, so you're giving them the ability to come across the cellular membrane, right? Which is actually
that's not necessarily why. The reason is because especially NR, they're not very stable, so they are very reactive, and they're naturally occurring molecules in the body. So, for example, we're just going to talk about another patent that exists for NR as a supplement. The patent is not on NR. You cannot patent something that is naturally occurring in the body. The patent is on the stabilizing method of NR. And actually, there are already two of them. So Nestle invested, and we have a history of talking about Nestle, you and I, but Nestle invested millions of dollars into research in stabilizing NR. And what we did is we basically isolated NR and NMN from its reactive environment by lyophilizing them or lipolyzing them. But we can look at lipolyzation from anything from supplements to certain inoculations that are popular now in the world that need to be lipolyzed.
Yeah, which we won't talk about because we don't have enough hours in the day for that. Yeah. So it's in a little transport vehicle, let's say, so that stabilizes it, gets it into the cell. So then how does it get freed so that it's now useful to the mitochondria once it's in there?
So it actually gets degraded. It gets degraded when it travels through that highway. These are biomimetic lipids. So these lipids actually are being utilized by the skin and our cells. And what we are left with when that molecule is ushered into the cell is a free form of precursors of building blocks of NAD, which then the cell can very easily use in order to create NAD out of it. And NAD, just to let you know, is involved in over 600 processes in our body. Mm-hmm. And just emphasize how important it is. If we take it magically out of the body, that person would be dead in 30 seconds. So it is a very important molecule that does a lot more than just, supporting energy. It's a lot of different processes, actually rely on NAD. They refer to NAD, even if to work or not. So one of them, and people would probably be familiar with the book Lifespan by David Sinclair, Professor David Sinclair from Harvard, and the Sinclair Lab, of course, in Harvard, talking about sirtuins, which are, I dub them our anti-aging genes, but called longevity genes, and they make sure that the information from our DNA is correct.
Yes.
And
prevent some of that DNA damage.
Correct, yes. So they literally have some kind of, I'm going to heuristically describe it, but basically they look at the amount of NAD available to them, and they're not even going to work if there's not enough NAD, okay, before they even use it. So that is a main aspect of our technology or our formulations. Our formulations are what we call stacks, okay? Sirtuin activating compounds. So we NAD, or the precursor of NAD in our formulation, is meant to support those sirtuin genes and the subsequent proteins and enzyme they encode.
And specifically delivered to skin cells.
Correct. Yes.
Right. So because to your point, you can use sirtuin activators systemically. The skin is kind of low man on the totem pole. So it's just not going to get there. So, and again, I mean, this is what I think captures people when they talk to you is, and these are the questions that don't get asked so often. Yes, you've got all these great ingredients in your skincare, but how do you know it's getting to where you need it, where the body's actually going to use it for what you want it to be used for? So we've just talked about how we're getting NAD to the cell and into the mitochondria so that it's, hopefully the mitochondria says, amazing. Mitochondria doesn't give a crap about anything else. It's just in the cell. It's just going to take what it needs. What else? There are other aspects to this skincare that make it quite revolutionary. So let's talk about, because I asked you earlier about the NAD salvage pathway, and then this enzyme CD38, which upregulates as we age, and it chews through more of our NAD. Yeah. So I'm going to guess from the look on your face that you've thought of that too and have addressed it.
So we are addressing it, and we love addressing it. And also that is obviously we're getting into the weeds here of NAD in our body. So that's our passion and our love. And supporting NAD in different ways is what we are aiming to do. So 38, we can really look at it as what breaks down NAD in our body, and through different infections, maladies, and just plain old aging, it gets more prominent in the body and breaks down more NAD, which then our body works very hard to recycle. But that is not a very efficient, clean process. So we lose a lot of NAD in that process. So one of the things that downregulates CD38 is apigenin, which is that's what makes you sleepy in chamomile.
In chamomile?
Yes. In chamomile.
Oh, chamomile. Okay.
Yeah, chamomile.
Like camel milk.
We can talk about chamomile if you want. It's amazing.
That was my ears. Sorry about that. Okay, so in chamomile, yes.
So what we do, but we do need to downregulate CD38 pretty frequently and in low doses. So in our cleanser, we have introduced chamomile extract, which is rich in apigenin, which will downregulate CD38 because we want people to do it on a regular basis. What we also have that's not related to CD38, but what it does relate to is the usage of NAD. We use resveratrol. Obviously, we're not the only ones who use resveratrol. The problem with as advertised by David Sinclair, resveratrol is an amazing polyphenol, which you can think of as an antioxidant. So it's an amazing antioxidant. What it also does it also ramps up sirtuin activity.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is that our skin cannot really break it down. It lacks the enzymes that we have in our digestive tract that break down resveratrol and use it. So
yeah, and it's not terribly bioavailable,
it
right?
Isn't.
Like
it isn't.
It's a tough one.
Not only that it's a tough one, it actually, in very mild concentrations, is toxic for our skin for those reasons. So what we did in order to, or the patent we use in order to bypass that and make it more bioavailable and less toxic, is fermentation. So actually we ferment the resveratrol and make up that enzyme that our skin lacks in the fermentation process, which makes it significantly less toxic. Or if we want to use numbers, it makes it 50-fold less toxic and more bioavailable.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And that's in all the products?
So we have basically a line of products that is called Hero, which are our hero products. And in both our day and night cream, we have that resveratrol, fermented resveratrol, enhanced resveratrol, we call it. And our night cream would have our NR Noble, which is our NAD precursor, the patent that we use. The reason we do it at night, even though I use it twice a day, the reason we do it at night is because NAD actually peaks 8 hours after supplementation, absorption, that may be. So we actually want to have a peak in the morning and then when we use our day cream that has a significant amount of resveratrol, we use that NAD as much as we can, which is important to emphasize that our day cream is very, very, very powerful and should be used gradually.
I really like it.
Great.
I didn't have any problems with it at all. Where's the GHK?
So the GHK-Cu we use in our eye cream. The reason is because as a startup, as far as a brand, we wanted to make sure we're giving results first, and then introduce the more longevity promoting ingredients such as NR Noble, our patented NAD precursor complex. So at the moment, our eye cream, which is called Eye Care, has what we call new age peptides or very advanced peptides. So it does have GHK-Cu, which is called copper tripeptide 1, which is an amazing peptide. It increases collagen production. It also dilates blood vessels. It's amazing. But it also has a complex of other peptides that combat something called glycation, which in just to put it simply, it means that our skin becomes thinner, but also more rigid. So when we smile and we have those lines that are staying there for a while, or those more harder patches in our skin, that is caused by glycation. And that is what our eye cream combats. The good news are, as we speak, the new edition of our eye cream already will have the patented NAD precursors within it.
So one thing that I know that a lot of the people who listen to this podcast have been, they've been geeking out on peptides for a while, the copper peptides and all that. And one of the things that they've been told and that we've been told is if copper peptide is in a product, it will be blue. And like it'll be cobalt blue. And I know that you're very, like you're not in it to say, we waved a little bit of GHK-Cu over the vat and hope that some of it would fall in. Like if I know anything about you at this point, if there's GHK-Cu in there, it's at a concentration that will be meaningful. And yet the cream's not blue. It's so can you talk to us a bit about that? Because I think that will be one of those things people will look at.
Definitely.
And go, not blue.
Yeah. First of all, if you want a little like a method to know, what's the concentration of active ingredients in a product, just look at the back of the product. Whatever is higher on the list, it means it has more concentrated.
Yeah.
So you'll see copper tripeptide 1, GHK-Cu, is very high up that list. And the reason our product is not blue is because we have other active ingredients there that have different colors. So DHKC is definitely cobalt blue, or I don't know. Yeah, cobalt blue is a good way to describe it.
It's a bright blue. Yeah.
Yes, but what you really want to consider is high concentration of it will be between 5 to 8%. Okay, it means that if it does have only that blue tint, it means that it doesn't have much else in it.
Yes.
Okay, and our other peptides, which are predominantly milky white, such as Matrixyl 3000, and which is a pro-collagen peptide, and other peptides, and also our other ingredients kind of skew that color towards the yellow or kind of milky yellow color with a slight blue tint if you look at it in the light.
It's almost like a shimmer. It's yes. An interesting, when you look at that eye cream, it's almost like jelly a little bit. It's a beautiful texture, but it's, and I'm trying to put as little a pump on my finger as possible. Just
So yeah, just consider the fact that if you see a blue color, it means that there's not there in that.
There's just not much else.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things we talk about in skincare, and that's, I think, really important to mention here, is as important as what's in the skincare is, what's also very important about skincare is what's not.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, like both in terms of what people should look for that to not be in their skincare, and how your skincare is formulated to kind of maybe stay away from some of those bad actors where, you're kind of doing something really good on the one hand, and then on the other hand, you've got this nasty additive. This is actually added, like aging or damaging. It's a little bit like sunscreen, right? All these people slopping on all this sunscreen that is at its very core carcinogenic, really tragic. So
yeah, and I would love to talk about the SPF in general, but before we do that, let's again, what I appreciate about our community is how people are investigative in nature, and they do their own research. So what I would always suggest doing when you look at the back of a box, you should definitely be Googling and looking at each ingredient and see how it affects your skin, which is very important, because sometimes as much as we have people pushing their agenda as far as active ingredients that are positive, sometimes also completely irremarkable ingredients, and also but not very harmful ingredients get a bad rap just because some company decided to kind of put on their flag the fact that they don't have, just fill in the blank.
That's a really interesting point. You're the second person who's mentioned that to me. So let's talk a little bit about some of that before they kick you out of your hotel room.
So for example, we use a type of silicone in our coating that evaporates when it meets the skin. And this is, for example, something we're using where we do get a lot of questions as far as, I saw a type of silicone in your skincare. So our silicone, for example, is doesn't really reach your skin, by the way, and is one of our innovations. But what we are trying to stay away from is any biomodulating ingredients that by applying our skincare once a day or twice a day or as many times as you would like, you would be accumulating in your skin and accumulating very, very small amount of stressors and damage that would lead to worse outcomes. So when we formulate our skincare, we do emphasize, as much as we emphasize the active ingredients that we have there, we emphasize research on ingredients that shouldn't be there, which is very, very important to us, because we do look at the body as a whole and our skin as a whole as an organ that needs to be cared for. And we don't want just beautiful result. We want also a healthy, vibrant organ.
So in using my Young Goose regimen, which I love the texture and all that stuff. what can I hope to see over time? Should I expect, and assuming all the things that we started talking about at the beginning of the podcast, that I'm doing all these other things, I may or may not use GHK as a peptide subcutaneously, injected subcutaneously, and doing all the other things that I do. Would I be seeing, because I feel like there's different ways that skincare is going to work. Some of it is going to stop further damage from occurring. How much can someone like me think about, can we reverse some of this skin damage? Like, can we see an improvement? I mean, it's not going to go back to where I was when I was 40 or 35, but can I expect to see a slowing of damage and then maybe a turning back? Or is it really just, let's stop you here, which, wouldn't be the worst thing. And we're just going to try not to really slow that damage and progression down.
Yeah. So that's an awesome question. I love that question. And we should look at a few things here. It's not that simple. Okay. So
of course not.
we definitely should be seeing a more glowing, tighter, and fuller, plumper looking skin, which would then affect how our wrinkles look.
Right.
We should look at better distribution of the pigment melanin, which definitely will impact how blotchy or pigmented our skin looks. And those are effects that we should be seeing within a month to 2 months. But really, when we want to look at reversing the apparent signs of aging, we actually need to re-injure the skin and then have the skin repair itself better. So, for example, we have a retinol, which we call bioretinol, because it does have those biomimetic lipids that repair skin barrier while you use it. And that is a product that damages the skin a little bit, and then the skin can recover better. And especially by using those NAD precursors, etc., and GHKCU and peptides in our creams, we can then support that healing process better. And that also relates to using or having other procedures done as far as microneedling, radiofrequency, which I don't necessarily recommend, IPL, laser resurfacing, etc., etc., etc. The reason.
What about PRP?
PRP. So PRP, actually, when you want to look at it, is the PRP is not, when we talk about skin rejuvenation, and not necessarily about like, how do you stop my knee from hurting? So PRP.
No. Just talking about
when we talk about skin rejuvenation, we are actually looking at microneedling and then using PRP afterwards. Right. So the microneedling part is the part of that control damage. And then the PRP is supposed to do what our skincare products do, which is support the healing process so the skin heals better than it healed before when it accumulated that damage, basically. So what I would like to say when we look at that aspect is that there is a give and a take. When we create damage, we exhaust some of the mechanisms of healing that are stored in our cells. So when you can think of the reason we develop or that we have gray hair, we've exhausted, the replenishing stem cells that are in the base of our hair follicle, just as a heuristic example. And we're doing something similar also in our skin. We're exhausting what we call the high flick limit. So the amount of times our skin or our cells can split and regenerate. So be mindful of the regenerative procedures that you're doing. Make sure that when you're doing them, you're supporting the healing process with good diet, good habits, sleep, etc., because you don't want to do them over and over and over and over again. You want to do them mindfully.
Yeah. Well, and also, there's some interesting, in the world of peptides, we also have this interesting world of bioregulator peptides, and one in particular called epitalon, which is from epithalamin, which as one of its hallmark benefits that's being held up, and that has been shown in certain studies, is that it helps to lengthen telomeres, And if we can, and lengthening of telomeres is what buys us time on this whole Hayflick effect, where we don't run out of space on those DNA, on that replication of DNA quite as fast. And, so possibly bringing some of those strategies on board at the same time might be beneficial.
100%. And peptides in general, we can look at them as kind of signaling molecules in the body. But if you are into computer coding, you can think of it as a computer code. But you are sending a signal, which then the body needs to listen to that signal, needs to be responsive to that signal. And the reason we want to be mindful is that we exhaust the response to that signal most of the time. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying right now is a very kind of large, encompassing sentence, but peptides or any other signal that we're giving the body, if you give too much of that signal, the body tends to respond less and less and less to it. And obviously, okay, so again, mindfulness, getting a medical professional to walk you through that is definitely highly recommended. But yeah, you're right, epitalon, other peptides that improve healing and improve the cost of healing to the body.
In terms of using your product, would microneedling would you say like maybe once a week, once a month before, but that would be specifically the bioretinol, not just the care or the moisturizers? So
bioretinol we should look at it separately from microneedling. It doesn't improve healing per se. It is that signal for repair that microneedling would be lumped into the same group with. So
so it's an alternative to microneedling.
Alternative or an add-on or whatever that may be. That's something we can do at home. When we talk about microneedling, maybe we should think of doing it in a professional setting because the at-home tools are not as effective. So if you can do it with a professional, esthetician, medical spa, whatever that may be, that might be a better option. And what we are doing is a process that the body takes to respond to between 21 to 28 days. So if you were to do it every week, that's fine, especially if you're doing it at home. But you're kind of, I like to call it, you're mowing the lawn twice. Okay.
Yeah.
You probably want to do it every 21 to 28 days
at most. Yeah. And do it well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, we could keep talking for a very long time. Actually, I do want to ask you about one other product that you make, because I've been using this religiously and I don't know that much about it. And that's the mask. You have this mask that you handed me as I was walking out of the show, and you said, here, take this and use it. I was like, okay. By then I trusted you enough that I was like, okay, I'm just going to use this. But do you want to talk to me a little bit about what's in there so that?
Yeah, we can, even though it's not sold yet. It's a prototype that you got because we love you.
Okay, guys. Well, it's coming soon.
This is a mask that increases the amount of oxygen our skin absorbs. So overnight, one of the repair processes of the skin that we want to biohack is the amount of is the replenish the absorption of oxygen, or what we call cutaneous respiration. So our skin kind of breathes. So we improve that breathing. You can look at it like a breath strip for our skin, and that's a really, really, really cool biohack. It's a very simple biohack. It's actually something that can be done if you do use our product overnight and you don't want to kind of change your regimen. You can use that mask for 10 minutes and wash it off, or you can leave it for your entire night, kind of as your night cream, and then use our night cream that has the NAD precursors. You can use it in the morning. But that mask, that's what it does. It increases the amount of oxygen your skin absorbs and can then use in order to fuel its cellular function. So we're kind of biohacking your skin to behave like a younger skin.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I mean, because I've been using that longer than anything else, and I feel, and I'm not one that notices this stuff necessarily, but I feel like it's just brighter.
Yeah.
And I've been using it now for about a month, right? So I just feel like it's a little bit brighter. So
what I would caution against is using it next to your eyebrows or your hairline, because it is going to bleach it, because it does, again, it's oxidative.
Yeah. So far, so good. I'm
Great.
good.
Great.
My eyebrows are dark. I could lose a couple. It's not the end of the world.
I got you.
I think this is almost like a marathon. So, and we could keep going, but I think that in the interest of your time and everybody else's time, maybe what we can do is say that you're going to tell us where people can reach you and how they can buy your products if they want to, or how to follow you, your podcast, the whole 9 yards. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll plan another episode for when some of those things up in the pipeline start to trickle down again.
What I would say, yeah, fantastic. What I would say is that there is a conference that is called the American Academy for Anti-Aging Medicine that's in December.
Yeah, A4M.
A4M. And we have a product that we're aiming to launch there. We're kind of low-key already have some people that are using it, but that is a mTOR down regulator. Which is really, really cool. It's a serum. We'll send you some.
Uh-huh.
And that's an awesome product that we'll talk about next time. But in general, just let's just say how you can reach us. So we love Instagram. We're very popular on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or very active on Instagram, which is young_goose _skincare. That's our handle. If you want to follow me specifically, I'm not very active, but my name is Amitay Eshel, as you can see from kind of down there in the window.
Yeah.
And you look for me, there are not many. It's basically only me.
You're one of a kind, definitely.
Yeah, so you'll see me there. Our podcast is called Biohacking Beauty, or the Biohacking Beauty Podcast, and that's in any way, shape, or form you consume your podcasts, from YouTube to any podcast audio podcast platform. And there we're doing basically what we did here. We just dive into a subject that would optimize our health, kind of find ways that people would use it. We bring on very, very, very interesting people in their own fields of expertise.
And then your website for people decide they'd like to try a couple of your products.
So our website is younggoose.com. Young Goose is one word, and then .com.
Yeah.
If you want to use one product and you want to try us out, I'd recommend our cream, which is called Care Nighttime Repair.
Okay, so the nighttime one.
Yeah, it's not necessarily for the nighttime. I use it twice a day. It's an amazing product, and that's our kind of hero product. So if you want to give one product a chance, that would be this one. If you want to do more than one, I would go for the Care line, which has Care for the night, Care Boost for the day, and then Eye Care, which you could use twice a day, which has GHKCU and other peptides.
Amazing. And then you guys, if you do decide that you're going to try any of these products, Amitay has very generously extended a 20% discount to all of our listeners. And all you have to do for that is use promo code Superhuman20. So Amitay, thank you so much for your time today.
And I believe it's all caps.
And it's all caps. Sorry. 20. So Superhuman, all caps 20, but it'll be in the show notes so everybody can see it there. So thank you so much for your time today. First of all, it was such a pleasure to meet you in person, and it's such a pleasure to speak with you.
The pleasure, frankly, is all mine, and we love you. We love you. I love you personally, and we love you.
I love you right back, you guys. You and Anastasia. You guys have got to see Anastasia too. She's something else. Anyway, thank you so much, Amitay. Pleasure.
Thank you, Natalie. Bye. Take care.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining me on this episode of the Biohacking Superhuman Performance Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, because that's what helps us to be heard and to be seen. If you'd like to connect with me directly, or if you'd like to leave any comments, or if you have any questions about this episode, please reach out to me directly through my website, natnidham.com. And of course, if you're not already a member of the Biohacking Superhuman Performance community on Facebook, that's where you'll find me every day. It's a short application, just answer a couple of questions, and you're in and interfacing with other amazing biohackers. Thanks again, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.